Today we're going to show a chemical relaxer. On one side of the head we're going to do a version relaxer. I have a 4-section parting here. The other side of the head we are going to do a retouch. So you want to make sure you double drape. I'm going to start with some protective cream, and if you were using a base relaxer, you would actually go through and use a protective base on the scalp as well. I'm just going to go around her face and her hairline, basically her ears. A little cream on there. You always want to apply protective cream. This is a very strong chemical, and anything on the skin is going to cause burns. Just want to put a thick amount all the way around. Another thing you want to do with relaxer is go through section by section and check to see if there's any abrasions. Because if there are any abrasions on the scalp and you put the relaxer on, you're going to have severe irritation and burning. I'm putting a thick layer on so it can be seen. When you're at state board, you want to make sure they can see that you put protective cream on, but you want to avoid getting it in the hair. So if you were to go through and put base on, you would actually go through section by section. And probably at this point I would just section with my fingers. As you're doing this, you'd also check the scalp for abrasions, but you'd go through and get some cream on your fingers and just put cream right down on the scalp section by section. You can also use this on any ends that you want to protect, maybe when you're doing a retouch. You just go through section by section. For state board, you do not have to show a base relaxer. So you only have to do the hairline. Okay, so this first 2 sections, we are going to do an application as if they've never had relaxer at all. So this will be a version application. You want to start about 1/4 to 1/2 inch from the scalp and go up to the porous ends. We're going to assume there's about 1 inch of porous ends when we do this. And I'm going to use the comb to apply. Over on this side here. I'm going to use the comb to apply because what you can do with the comb, you actually use the back part of the comb and it helps to smooth the hair really well as you're applying. You always want to wear gloves. One of those services. It has a, if you're using a true hydroxide relaxer, it has a pH of 13, so it's very strong, and you'll get severe irritation from it. So I'm going to use the comb, 1/4 inch sections. I'm going to leave out the scalp area, and I'm going to leave out the ends. About 1/2 inch of the scalp area. And I purposely chose a mannequin that's very curly. It's not going to go on as smooth as if she had straight hair. If you guys apply it, you can use straight hair if you want, but on a client, when you do a relaxer, it's going to be curly. And then I'm just going to gently lay it over. I'm going to do both sides, 1/4 inch sections. Using the back part of the comb to apply. And gently lay that over. The last 5-10 minutes of processing, you can just kind of watch and see how it's processing, how straight it's getting. You can apply it then to the scalp and the ends. You want to avoid the scalp because of body heat, and incomplete keratinization, where the hair hasn't completely hardened to the state that it's going to be. So it processes faster. And the ends, of course, because they're more porous, they're going to process quicker. Once you get this completely applied to both sides and both sections, at State Board you'll also show them how to do smoothing, so I'll show you how to do that also. When you do the smoothing part, that's when you can get it onto the scalp and ends a little bit better. Do one more, and then I'll show you the smoothing process. But you will, on your mannequin, go ahead and do both of these two sections here. Get a little close on that one. I usually try to stay about a ½ inch, that way if I do get a little bit close, it's still within that ½ inch range. That one's a little close. Let's take my pinky and remove the excess off. Okay, so once you got the entire section done, you got this entire section done, you've done your client's entire head, you'll have to work quick when you do the entire head. So you just smooth those back over. You can do smoothing a couple different ways. You can take your comb and do it. For State Board purposes, I'm actually going to use my fingers. So I'm going to get a little bit of product between my fingers. And then I'm going to get it right to the scalp and pull it through to the ends. And just do that several times. And then I would move on to my next section. These can be a little hard to separate. All the way to the scalp and run it through the ends. Now when you're doing this on a client, you would want to go through, you want to keep your skin free from any product too. On a client, you want to go through and actually do the smoothing part on the area that you've done, but still leave the scalp and ends out. And then that last 5–10 minutes processing, put it at the scalp, put it through the ends, and do your smoothing. So for State Board, we're going to assume that it's processed. They just want to see the smoothing, so you'll just go all the way from scalp to ends and smooth it. Okay, so you do both sections that way. And I'm going to show you how to do a retouch, which is similar to a lightener retouch. Kind of a combination of a color retouch and a lightener retouch, because you can use 1/4 inch sections like you do with color, but also you want to leave the scalp out a little bit. Take the first section, I'm going to leave about 1/4 inch of the scalp out, because you never want to put it right on the scalp for any length of time. I'm going to assume that there's 1 inch of regrowth, so I'm going to start about 1/4 inch away and go out about 1 inch, and then take another 1/4 inch section. So you would do the entire last 2 sections this way. So this is going to vary depending on how long it's been since your client has received their last relaxer. Sometimes people go a while between relaxers, and you might have 2 inches of regrowth. The difference between this and a color, this is where it's a lot like bleach too, you're never going to go through and retouch, refresh the ends on a relaxer. So you're always going to just do the regrowth part. If you went through and tried to get it on everything, then they're going to have extreme damage and breakage. Sometimes I flip my comb just to get a little more product on there.
Make sure as the head curves away that you stay only that ½ inch away. A lot of times people make a straight line, and as the head curves in the corners, they're farther than a ½ inch or ½ inch away.
So you want to make sure from here to here, you try to stay as consistent as possible. You don't want to pull all the hair towards the center. Apply it. I went a little far on that one, and just say, okay, I'm done, when these ends aren't done as well. So then on this one, you would go through that last, you do both sides, and then you'd go through that last few minutes of processing, get all the way to the scalp. Of course, you want to do the smoothing too, but now you're just doing this tiny little area right here.
You don't ever want to rub the relaxer into the scalp, though. You want to get it up to the scalp, but don't be rubbing it into the skin.
Get it where you don't want it. I just wipe it off with a towel. We want to see your completed relaxer, your relaxer away from the scalp before you go through and put it through the scalp area. You do both sections that way, and that's how you do a virgin and relaxer retouch.